of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. We have a very full agenda tonight, including an audit presentation. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Mr. Meinke for awards, recognitions, and celebrations.
Well, I'm excited about the fact that we have a lot to celebrate, which is always a positive thing. And I'm going to start by talking about two of our students at Swartz Creek High School. One of our students, Caleb Kawa, is a Swartz Creek High School senior, and he has been named a commended student in the 2020 National Merit Scholarship Program. Commended students place among the top 50,000 out of more than 1.5 million students who enter the competition by taking the 2018 SAT National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. So Caleb Kawa has been named a commended student, which is a tremendously high honor. We also have a student at our school, Mr. Jacob Winter, who's come to board meetings before. He is a national semifinalist in the 65th Annual National Merit Scholarship Program. Over 1.5 million students enter. He is landed in the top 16,000 nationally. In February, Jacob will find out if he's a finalist, which would qualify him for a National Merit Scholarship, which is tremendous. So both Jacob and Caleb deserve tremendous high praise for their academic excellence, and that's a very, very impressive feat. So congratulations to them. Also, the Dragon Marching Band represented us very well at the MSBOA Marching Band Festival. They displayed excellence in every aspect of their performance. In fact, they received straight ones and extremely high feedback from the judges. Their discipline and determination shine through, and they will actually they have been asked to be the featured band in the upcoming Eastern Michigan football game. So very impressed with our performance from our marching band. And we also had a tremendously successful boys soccer season, which just wrapped up actually last night. And the Dragons actually won their first postseason matchup against Carman Ainsworth 2-0. And they lost to a tough Oxford team last night, but they had were extremely well represented with all league honors, as well as first team, second team, third team, and honorable mentions. They had students all across the board. And last but certainly not least on my long list of celebrations today, our very own board president, Carrie Germain, is the 2019 Alfred Award recipient. This award is presented each year to a Flint area health professional who demonstrates a commitment to professionalism, integrity, and humanitarian goals. We're excited to have Carrie on our board and help leading our district, and congratulations on such a high honor. So congratulations to everybody.
Okay, thanks, Ben. We now have an opportunity for public comments related specifically to our agenda items. If anybody would like to address the board, please stand, state your name, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
Excuse me. Thank you.
Anyone? No? Okay. Moving on, we have a consent agenda before you. The minutes from our last meeting, the agenda, resignations, retirement, and the payment of bills. I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Support.
Mike and Tony, any comments or questions?
Just a couple on the minutes.
Go ahead.
And maybe this is not appropriate this time, and I don't, well, I'll hold that comment for later. It was just on one of the students in our minutes here that's presented. I'll leave that for later. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, back to you, Ben, for the superintendent report.
All right, I wanted to update all of you. I'm not sure how much you know about some of our community-wide programs. I attended a presentation a week and a half ago at Family Promise of Genesee County. And so Family Promise of Genesee County, essentially they are a shelter for people that have children. So they are also working on helping people move in, and actually HUMI, Help Us Move In, is a program that they run. And so they're really fighting against homelessness, and in Genesee County that is a challenge, particularly in the Flint area. And so Family Promise basically allows for people to have a place to go, particularly families with young children. And so it's a smaller shelter. I just wanted to highlight that, make sure that you're aware of the work that they're doing. I heard a presentation from their executive director, and they're really doing some neat things for families, especially kids that are going without. And so it's neat to be able to offer that they're able to offer those services. So we're certainly making our staff aware of these services so that if we know somebody comes into this situation, we know how to help. And this is just one of several places. We have My Brother's Keeper and several other places, Carriage Town Ministries, and that's only just scratching the iceberg, but a lot of great organizations that I've worked with and seen working in our community. And I know many of you have worked with them as well in different capacities. But Family Promise is one that I wasn't as aware of, and they just came to me about a week and a half ago. So it was nice to, I wanted to just publicly share that they're doing some really great things for children here in Genesee County. I also wanted to let you know, and I know that all of you got communications from me during this time, but we've had the triple E mosquito epidemic, and so every year, whether it's a water issue or lead in the water or mutant mosquitoes, there tends to be some sort of thing that crops up that can be a public health concern, and this year was no different. So we are still operationally, we are not taking any field trips to Lagan. We've canceled a field trip down to Spicer's Orchards. We're eliminating kind of some of our risk and exposure. We did spray across the district, and of course that has to be done at certain times to avoid contamination and things like that. So there's very strict guidelines on how we do that. But we did take care of that across the entire district and even around the creek areas. It has been a little bit of an inconvenience. Some of our teachers had field trips planned and things like that have had to be canceled, but at this point, they are predicting that with the recent frost that we had and an upcoming more even deeper frost that we'll get over the next couple weeks, they're predicting that the mosquito issue will become no more. But this is just something to keep on our radars, and we do everything we can to respond to these crises. I think sometimes in the world that we live in with our social media networks and everything else, people, it rises to this level really quickly, and then they're expecting the schools to kind of take care of it, and we do everything we can, but just know that that is a factor, and we're working with the health department on that. We are continuing to work on our Wednesday professional development sessions on developing standards for our curriculum, and our focus this year on purpose, as we've talked before, has come into play, and our teachers are working very diligently. I was at Moorish Elementary School this morning working with their staff. This is something that will be very, very helpful when it's completed, but it's also a daunting task to get done. It takes a lot of work, and really, really diving into making sense so that we can say across all 13 grade levels, we have a continuous curriculum that is aligned and makes sense, and we can promise that to parents, and we can also help teachers make sense of the complexity from what is expected of them in terms of what they're teaching. I also will let you know that our count numbers are up. This is a very positive thing to report. We have more students coming to our school district than we have. We have historically lost students over the last 10 years since 2008. We have seen a declining enrollment, and most districts in the state of Michigan have seen that. This year, for the first time, we're starting to see a rebound. I'm not going to put a number out there yet because we're still certifying that, but by our next board meeting, I should have a certified count number to be able to share with you and feel pretty confident about. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but we will have a positive trend in terms of our student population numbers. I also want to share with you just a legislative update. This was put together a couple weeks ago, so it's a little bit dated, but I threw today's date on it since it's when I'm giving it to you. But It could have been a celebration as well, but I wanted to bring you up to speed on how the state of Michigan's legislature and governor have come to some agreements on our funding. The legislators sent all 16 budgets to the governor. It would be a few weeks ago now. The key elements of the budget for education included a list there. There are several things that were stricken from the budgets, and the governor this time used line item vetoes on multiple parts. She had 147 line item vetoes to be exact. And so basically this is not an exhaustive list, but there is a large number of line item vetoes that she did. And so the question now becomes, what happens with the money that's there? And that's something that I'll have to report out when we find that out. Nobody really knows exactly. This is kind of unprecedented. However, the positive news is both the legislature and the governor supported an increase to the foundation allowance, which for Swartz Creek is about a $240 per student increase, which is fantastic. That is more than what we budgeted. Chris and I, when we brought you the budget last year, of course we tried to be more conservative. We felt like the number 200 would be a little safer, and it turns out from what we were hearing, it ended up even a little bit better. So that's all very positive. There's several bills out there that we're looking at. I know some of these are going to be of great interest to you. I don't need to go through all of them. I will tell you there's an opioid addiction video for student athletes, which I know some of you are going to be very interested in. There are some things that deal with tax dollars. It's called the Wayfair dollars. It would restore income tax revenue to the school aid fund. So that's something that we're looking at and kind of monitoring pretty closely. There's definitely some bills in there that are dealing with the Michigan Merit Curriculum. There are some bills that have been passed, including some dental screening bills, as well as some fire alarms and vestibules that have now been signed into law. That, just so that you're aware, when we are designing these spaces, if you recall, back in Parkland, Florida, the shooter in that situation pulled the fire alarm from inside a vestibule, a safe and secure vestibule. So you had the vestibule secure. The fire code basically said you had to have a fire alarm inside of that area. And so they couldn't get access to the school, but that's where they triggered the alarm from. So the legislature basically quickly pulled together and said we got to remove that part from the fire code. So that is no longer a requirement under the fire code. So they've done that to avoid those types of things. And, number of bills there for you to look at. If you have questions on any of them or any of them are interest to you, certainly reach out to me, send me a text or a call, and I'll be happy to share that, what I know. Any other questions from my update today?
No, thank you very much. Okay, you have on the agenda informational items. We also have a board subcommittee reports. Who would like to start?
I'll start.
Hi. Oh, Tony? Hi.
Like one.
You can fight over it.
May I go first?
Please.
Go
ahead.
I heard you say fight over it, I thought I'd jump in.
Go ahead, Brian.
We had our policy meeting, 7 o'clock Monday morning. We had, part of the discussion was about TSC oil discussion, the CBD oils and the other, with the decriminalization of some of the marijuana laws. So some of this oil is getting through. We had, the discussion basically focused on, basically awareness, are they able to have it in school? So we have identification, possession, distribution, and the actively changing laws, the constantly changing laws. So the discussion we had, and I asked actually for some recommended specific training needed and requested. And not only just for the board members and for administration, but for teachers also. Number 2, the Varnum letters, those are actually in our packets. And those are legal update, presentation, discussion, update information attached to the board packet. Then we had Neola policy package. We've got those also. We've got a summary sheet in here also, the yellow one, and that kind of gives us a summary, but then we also have the actual Neola policies that are coming. So those, that was a presentation we discussed briefly, and again, they're attached to the board packet. Any questions? A lot of reading material there, by the way.
So are we going to revisit the CBD conversation then? Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. All right, Tony.
Building and site met this Monday. We started our meeting at 4:30. Finance ran over, so we were a little late getting started. The cage flooring is all installed now, and everyone is happy with it. There's been compliments about it, so we're happy about that. We discussed selling 3 buses and buying 2 more, but the 2 buses wouldn't be bought till fiscal year 2021. And we discussed about buying or leasing. I think we're gonna lean towards buying. Leasing was twice as much.
Well, it was more expensive,
Yeah, quite a bit more expensive.
About 26.
And our salter, we have 3 salters, and one of them is broken. And it twice the cost to get it fixed. It's an old gas one with more moving parts. So we're considering buying a newer one with less moving parts, and comes 3-year warranty, so I think we need to do that. We are still in discussion with the Gaines Lions Club about what we're gonna do with them. We're gonna split and how that's gonna go. And we are gonna pay a company to move the big playground equipment from Mary Crapo over to Moorish. It was the company that installed it, I believe.
Just an update on that, RC told me today that he was able to get the other company to match the price.
Oh, did they?
Great, yep,
Great.
so, good.
It didn't hurt to ask.
Nope, that was good.
That's real good. And we adjourned at 17:30, and we will meet November 11th, 5:30, I'm sorry.
Was that date,
That was still,
was that for did we agree
No,
on?
I said no.
It was okay with you, Jessica, that November 4th or whatever it was, so we're
Just
good.
leave it as
Yes.
is.
Okay,
November 11th.
all right,
Yep.
so our normal date, okay.
That's okay.
Is there any questions?
Thank you. All right. Mike?
Finance Committee met this Monday. Mr. Jeffrey Sabalish, who's in the audience, from Lewis and Knopf, gave the preliminary audit presentation. And as Ben mentioned, he'll be presenting the final audit report tonight. We received and discussed the cash and investment summary for September, which you have in your packet for review. Check registers for September have been reviewed, and that following noted: general fund, 186 checks, $326,007. Payroll fund, 19 checks, $2,213,867. Building and site, 4 checks, $25,978. Cafeteria fund, 2 checks, $180. Student activity fund, 22 checks, $28,154. Bond project fund, 8 checks, $725,919. The check register was reviewed, and several checks were pulled with the paperwork for classroom furniture and classroom supplies. It was noted that in August and September, which is common because it's the beginning of the school year, there were several and many $1,000s worth of purchases. We had discussion regarding these purchases and the procedure for ordering them, and the majority of them are bought through the state's cooperative bulk purchasing program in order to procure the lowest cost. Regarding the Michigan Department of Education grant programs audit, which has been on the agenda for 3 or 4 months, we're still waiting for the report for the state. There are no bids out currently. However, the Bonds middle school bids should be coming out soon. During public comments, Mr. Chris Duder discussed the overseeing and reporting of our bond financials and the implementation of a bond budget. Superintendent Minka explained that the state of Michigan and our legal counsel has provided guidance about how we should operate and run our financials during the bond process, and that it's completely different from the general fund budget process. During committee comments, I stated that I have full confidence in Executive Finance Director Chris Gray, and that she can account for every penny of bond funds, and I see no reason to saddle Chris and her staff with a bond budget. Tonight, speaking for myself and as the treasurer of this district, I can assure you that we are meeting our legal requirements and following our legal counsel's advice in spending and reporting of all bond dollars. This administration is extremely transparent and conservative, and we are constantly monitoring and tracking all district finances. Next meeting, 11 November, we adjourned at 4:35. Any questions?
I just concur what you said, Mike, as far as.
Pardon?
I concur with what you said, you know, with the,
Okay.
with what we're doing with the bond and the trust that I have and the integrity that I have with the people that are actually working this through.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mike. Thanks for those comments too. Appreciate your work. Anybody else? Okay.
Falls to me now. You were
I
guessing
recognize
between
that
those.
writing.
Oh, do you?
Jessica.
Yeah, okay, we met Monday for the Academic Achievement Committee. Rod Heatherton gave us a summary of the MTSS presentation that he gave in conjunction with Carm Ainsworth to the GISD, which that presentation was given to all 21 school districts plus Lapeer and local charter schools. Just so everybody knows, MTSS refers to the framework for support at all levels of instruction that is systematically in place to help all students succeed. Our state defines MTSS as a multi-tiered system of supports as an integrated tiered system of instruction, assessment, and intervention designed to meet the academic achievement and behavioral health needs of all learners. And so Rod shared then with us, and correct me if I'm wrong, did you say that we are the only district in the county that has a district implementation team that covers all the schools? Is that what it was? Or
One of
like the entire district, or one of the very few that?
districts that has a district-wide team, yes.
And we've had that in place for multiple years. You guys said
Almost-
10 years, I
almost
think,
10
right?
years, yeah.
That's just fantastic. So with that being said, Rod gave us a couple handouts as far as what that looks like, what the communication protocol is, who that support staff is, and then as well shared with us really 4 areas. One was about what our district focus is, what our district structure is. That's what part of that sheet is with the protocols, as well as the district expectations, and gave some secondary examples from the high school as far as interventions and initiatives related to this. All the staff, or all the teaching staff, really, MTSS, correct me, again, add to this, who's getting this?
All the staff will get this. We hold our fall MTSS meeting tomorrow.
Yes.
So the team of 30 to 40 or so individuals, I'm leading a half-hour session on that, and then they'll take those cards back to their building afterwards with a rollout.
So, and the idea is, and as well you were saying, to keep this simple, so it's something that the teachers, that staff can just post and look at and see the expectations, both from a district, or district efforts, and then what the expectations are for the teachers with the multiple tiers of our learners. Is that accurate to say?
Absolutely.
Anything else you want me to add to this part?
Just that as we continue to hone our systems and put things together, we'll be preparing our old district plan and creating a district handbook as well, and that'll be wrapped up sometime by the end of the year.
Thanks. And then the other thing that he mentioned was, as he said, that the district fall meeting will be tomorrow, and not only addressing this, the poverty update and trauma and mindfulness, and slightly different on mindfulness, but it was really nice when we ended talking about this portion of it, that Rod said, you know, the one thing that we always wanna do is continually be looking at and asking, what is it that we can do to improve, to be supportive, to, not just the students and the staff, to help them to be able to be the best that we can, ultimately, so, nice job, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you
Mhm.
very much.
I have one more thing to add to my report, I'm sorry, if that's
Sure.
okay, if everybody is, all the committee.
Anybody have any questions for Jessica first?
You did a good job.
Really, I tried to lay it.
Did just-
I made one big mistake. I was telling Joanne, in the effort of space, I didn't put paragraphs in there. I did myself, I was like, oh, there's no paragraph.
So today is Boss's Day, and you seven are my boss, and so I want to thank each of you individually. And Brian, I want to thank you for your constant support. You're always positive. You bring a tremendous amount of history to this district. I lean on you all the time for, you know, what's the historical perspective here, and I think you bring a tremendous perspective to that. Chuck, I've really enjoyed getting to know you, and the fact that you bring a totally different perspective, and I think that's welcomed, and I think you've really done a nice job to try and challenge us as a board to be better, and me personally to be better, but also to do what's best for the kids in the school district. And I appreciate your heart, particularly for individuals and meeting their needs, and just how you've kind of come on board to that. Michael, you've been amazing to work with since I've come on board, and just a financial really stalwart when it comes to making sure we're doing things the right way. I appreciate your attention to detail, and also just the tremendous insights I've learned from you, and about how good governance is really taken doing things the right way. And I appreciate your integrity in that. And Tony, we started together, so I appreciate learning the ropes with you and kind of coming on board, and just the fact that you see things in a way that is really from a high level, and sometimes I don't even think about some of the things that I learned from you, and your connection to this community is also very deep, and I appreciate that. And Carrie, I'm so thankful for all of our conversations, and the fact that you're kind of leading me and mentoring me in many ways, and just your tremendous compassion and heart for children, and for the human side of this business. That sometimes we're doing so much in terms of policies, and we deal with big things, and I know you've got just a tremendous human side to you, so I appreciate that about you. And Jessica, it's been great having you come on board, and I think you, like Chuck, are challenging us in so many new ways, and you have a great balance of advocacy as well as accountability. And I appreciate all of the things that you bring as a parent, having two students in our schools and understanding the different challenges that arise, and giving me a call and saying, hey, did you know this happened? And that's just really helpful. So I appreciate how supportive you are to the kids and to this community. And Alicia, it's been great getting to know you, and even your dedication in midst of being ill, and calling into committee meetings, and constantly sending me encouraging messages, but also keeping me in the loop of things that are going on. Also, as a mom who cares deeply about what happens to the children of this district, I'm learning so much from you, and I'm so thankful to work with you. And so for Boss's Day, I didn't get a cake or anything. I probably should have, but I'm not that organized. But I appreciate all of you in your own way, and we don't agree on everything all the time, and I think that's part of what makes us a stronger team. But I am thankful for the respect that's shared at this table, and for each of you. So happy Boss's Day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You did miss one,
Hmm?
your wife.
Yes, I do need to thank my wife.
Remember when you get home.
She's actually a real boss. Yeah, that's true.
But thank you, Ben.
Mhm.
We appreciate you very much. Okay. Going on, we have our book study, The Coddling of the American Mind. We're on chapters 7 and 8.
Yes. So I wanted to, and again, to the extent that you want to discuss this topic, this is a topic that is greatly impacting our children and our parents. And so chapter 7 is all about anxiety and depression. And I just wanted to see if, when you read that chapter, were there any things that stood out to you? Were there any things that you felt particularly important to bring up?
I did. I made some notes, and it should bring some discussion. And it's about smartphones. and electronic devices. There are benefits and harms involved in the use of smartphones. Primary cause of the increase in mental illness is frequent use of smartphones. Both depression and anxiety cause changes of cognition, including a tendency to see the world as more dangerous and hostile than it really is. And they mention FOBLO, which is fear of being left out, has become easier to enact and harder to escape when we acquired smartphones.
Yeah, it's amazing that concept of when you used to go to the mall as kids, right? Or to the grocery store or whatever, you would see somebody and you knew those people that you saw. Well, now when a kid is constantly on their devices, they're seeing everybody all the time, and their world is constantly, everybody knows what everybody's doing all the time. And so then they get that anxiety of, I'm missing out on something because I see my 25 friends, 18 of them are doing something fun and I'm here, right? Versus if you were just at the mall, you would never know anything. It's just normal.
I agree with that, and on page 152, they talk about Twinge, who's renowned in this area of this relationship between the electronics, depression, anxiety, suicide rates. But she says here that Twinge finds there are just two activities that are significantly correlated with depression and other suicide-related outcomes, such as considering suicide. Electronic device use, such as a smartphone, tablet, or computer, and watching TV. So there's those two things with screen times. On the other hand, there are 5 activities that have inverse, well, she goes on to say that, but when she talks about the inverse activity of releasing this depression and anxiety, she talks about sports and other forms of exercise, attending religious services, reading books and other media, in-person social relationships, interactions, and doing homework. So it's almost like the old way of doing things. Go out, get some fresh air, play some football in the backyard, do some chores at the house, get away from she had a number of 2 hours of screen time could cause on a constant when they're watching more than 2 hours daily, that it can actually be detracting, that can actually cause this depression, anxiety, and suicide tendencies. So I think the fresh air is just like when we were growing up as kids. And Mom said, get outside and do something, and the fresh air was always healthy, always good. So getting away from here, I know they're great to have, but any more than 2 hours a day, I think there's a limit.
This was, I can say, one, as a parent, difficult to read, how greatly the incidence is increasing. I'm a little happy I have boys, because the incidence rate for females to have anxiety and depression that much greater than males was alarming to me too. But I read through this, and I mean, there's a lot that I try to think about. How do I parent? As a pediatric nurse, I see this as a huge uptick happening in society, and we just don't have the resources available to be able to help treat these children. But these children, even in what we're speaking about in this book, are really now new parents themselves. So it's that generation, below me, and then they're now having children. But reading through this, trying to think of how this really impacts our curriculum and what we can do as a district educationally. I've got several things I highlighted, but one thing I did want to bring up. I highlighted this statement. On average, 18-year-olds today have spent less time unsupervised and have hit fewer developmental milestones on the path to autonomy. Autonomy examples that they listed were such as getting a job or a driver's license, compared with 18-year-olds in previous generations. And I can say, I mean, my own experience as a parent, but also seeing children develop through the years, there are less and less children that actually do the traditional, get my permit and then get my driver's license, and I'm driving by my 16th birthday, and I've had 3 jobs flipping burgers and washing dishes and the things that I think most of us around this table experienced as we were growing up. I work with now, I mean, I've seen doctors that have literally come in fresh, brand new, this is your job. That is the first time that they've had a job. Like, never worked through high school, didn't work through college. I mean, it's alarming to me how protected the world has made children and how helicopter-y parents are becoming. So I question, though, what services we have available to develop our future employees. Our CREEK expectations, I always say, are leading towards employability, but I also see that we've pulled back on career services that used to be in existence in my day anyway. I had a career services office in my high school. There were postings of jobs available. I know they're not necessarily as available today, but even volunteer opportunities, career opportunities, driver's ed used to be offered at the school. Those services are just not available any longer. My kids, we joke about this at the band because the kids do this letter fundraiser, and it's amazing. Kids don't even know how to address an envelope, write a letter appropriately, where the stamp goes. Just some basic things that I think we take for granted, but we've pulled so much out of the curriculum leaning towards employability. Having an actual interview once in your lifetime before you turn 18 and you're let go into the world. So anyway, I guess it was an observation, but it's a question back as to where can we fit some of those. I mean, I think our educational development plans are fantastic. I just don't see the practical application of getting our kids into a workforce like we used to.
I think that's a great question, and I had similar thoughts, but then take it to the young ladies that are listed in here. And how do you build their self-esteem knowing that they're being exposed to all of these messages on social media and the image concerns that some of them may have. And so I guess I would ask the same question is, I know that much of the curriculum is very proscripted, but what can we do knowing that, some of this is very astounding information, and it's not going away, right? The concern will likely grow. And how do we, as, folks who are leading school districts, intervene sooner rather than later? And I would ask you, Alicia, when you do intake with young folks, are their parents usually in the room if they're an adolescent or 15, 16? And are you able to ask them questions like, how many hours a day do you use your phone, or are you on a screen, or?
Yeah, that's a key question asked to everybody. Actually, we start at like 1-year-old and up. It's astounding how much 2-year-olds, and I think there's a new American Academy of Pediatrics statement actually out there on how much it's impacting our younger generations. But yes, at least in my practice, we actually ask the parents to leave and have one-on-one conversations, anybody 12 years and older.
And so you're able to ask basically either by proxy or directly depression screening?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's a standard pediatric screener, an expectation.
I've got a instance, or an example of what is happening in our schools, is that, and I think Ben started, pushing relationships. And I know that a counselor in middle school, I'm not sure how she became aware of it, but I know there was a girl that was a problem. One of her people that she talked with. And she found out that she didn't have a hoodie. And I don't know how that came about. But this counselor had bought a hoodie for a relative, and it didn't fit him, or it didn't work out. And so she went home, got it, took it, and gave it to that girl. And the girl cried and said it was the first hoodie she's ever owned of her own. She always had to wear either her sister's or her friends or somebody. She never had a hoodie. And since school has started, I've been told that she is a completely different person. These kids come to school with a lot of baggage, and unless you build a relationship with them, you don't know. you have to build a relationship before they feel comfortable enough, you know, to talk to you. And I think that's a super program.
Yeah, one of the big, and I think we should save chapter 8 because there's a lot to talk about on that one too, but to kind of wrap this up, one of the things that's led to a lot of anxiety and depression is this concept of overprotection parenting. And so, as Alicia just talked about, we have tried to create a time, mainly because we live in a legal culture, right? So nobody wants to get sued, and everybody, we used to spend time outside, right? We were outside playing. We just came in whenever somebody would whistle or whatever it was, you know, I mean, and I'm not even that old, but that's what it was even when I was a kid. And so,
Streetlights came
yeah,
So you didn't go
and,
outside riding horses.
yeah, exactly. And now kids are either in front of screens, and you know, we talked about this on a podcast recently with the Safe Routes to School group. You know, parents are afraid to let their kids walk outside. I mean, there's such a concern, and so the interesting dilemma that we're facing is that our kids are being kept in these sterile laboratories, and they're not able to ever have freedom to experience life. And that's what builds experience. I think of my own daughter who's, I have 4 children, but we had a dog, and a dog was a part of the family. By the time my 3rd daughter came along, the dog was no longer with us. And so my 3rd daughter is terrified of animals, and anytime there's a dog around, she just gets freaked out. Well, she's never been exposed to it. So we've kind of now like gone over to friends' houses and like, can we just have some time with your dog so she can pet the dog? Because what creates comfort for her is exposing her to the dog. So we have protected our children so much in school and also at home that they don't oftentimes know how to handle, and they're being taught to be afraid of everything. And so what happens is when they see something that doesn't connect with what they think is supposed to fit into that bubble of theirs, they get anxious, they get depressed, it leads to all these psychological issues. So there's this spiral, and we're obviously not going to solve the world's problems here, but I think it's important that we start to think about this because it could lead to some conversation about what can we do to help parents? What can we do, you know, what types of programs could we put together to try and bring awareness around some of this research and this information?
Well, with what both of you said, and part of that makes me think about that Mike made this comment about them coming with baggage, and as you said, and that if we're acting out of fear, if we have depression and anxiety about what our situation is, you know, a lot of this as well talks about, you know, this is 2007, you know, that the Great Recession came, you know, like kids are dealing with in an environment where they've got parents maybe who aren't, and it doesn't matter what socioeconomic level that you're at, that are dealing with stresses, or maybe not dealing with stresses very well, and that's what kids are learning, you know, they don't have the tools. So in part, I know our focus is as well for the kids, but also kind of you can help the kids, but there's help that needs to be there. The mental health issue, I guess, is not just a kid issue. It's an adult issue as well. And to destigmatize that so that no matter what age you are, hopefully you will get the help or seek help that you need.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an issue of our time that's not going to go away anytime soon. The mental health in this country has deteriorated greatly. You can see it in adults and kids. So it's just, I want to keep these conversations on the forefront because it might generate for any of you or myself or anyone here ideas about what can we do to try and combat some of these things and help our kids be more resilient and productive members of society.
I do want to take the opportunity, though, that I think we should highlight the things that have already been implemented before this conversation, and that are great things.
Yes.
I keep saying I kind of wish my kids were a couple years younger to have experienced the things that are now in place. But the Positivity Project is amazing. The link programs that they have at the middle school and the high school, and correct me if I'm using the wrong lingo.
Web.
Isn't it link at the middle school?
And reaching higher.
Yep.
And what? Okay. Anyway, whatever those programs are, I think they're fantastic. But I think it's again back to what Mike said, that making relationships, and that is it goes back to a lot of the research that's in here, is that the kids are spending so much time in front of the screens that they don't know how to make interpersonal relationships, and what we are trying to do as young as the elementary and then work that up. That's where we need to combat it,
Sure.
and that's the first step, and we're already doing that. So now I think we just need to grow from that.
Sure.
And I don't know how good the research is, I've read in the past, and I think maybe it was presented at this board at one time, about recess being so important. How over in Europe, there are some schools where they have a lot more recess, kids are a lot more successful, they're getting outside, they're getting that fresh air, they're getting the exercise, and it's helping them succeed in the academic part. It's just really helping them.
Have all of our elementary schools switched to doing recess and then lunch? Or they go to recess first?
Yes.
I thought so.
They have recess multiple times a day.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Even better.
Mhm.
I want to be a kid again. I want recess during my day.
I think adults need recess sometimes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and nap time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right,
thank you, everybody. All right, now we have the literacy improvement presentation. Who's going to
Gonna
introduce
have,
Katie?
Rod, you wanna introduce, Mrs. Pruitt?
I see.
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, Katie Kerr is our Gaines Elementary principal, but she also doubles as our district MTSS coordinator. She will be leading our meeting tomorrow, and she's going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we've been doing with some grant money for literacy.
I brought with me the second grade team. They can introduce themselves.
I am Lindsay Walton. I teach at Cyrene, second grade. I'm Jamie Jamlock, also second grade at Cyrene.
So thank you for having us this evening. We are very excited to be here and share with you what's happening in our classrooms as it pertains to literacy. So I believe you're aware of the Literacy Essentials publication. So Literacy Essentials are a useful guide for us in supporting our teachers, our coaches, and our principals as we continue to improve our literacy efforts as it pertains to K-3. As you know, here in Swartz Creek, we have a very robust MTSS system, and we're extremely proud of that. As we continue to evolve in our literacy instruction, specifically focusing as it pertains to the third grade reading log, we are excited to share with you how we were able to support every teacher in our district, K-5, with books. As part of the 35A grant to improve reading from the state, we were able to purchase books to increase selections for students in classroom libraries. So as you can see on the slide, the district obtained close to 6,000 books with 35A monies. Each classroom across the district, K-5, received 50 to 100 books. Fiction and nonfiction titles were selected. So the lower grades received a certain amount of books. 3-5 received a certain amount of books. They came over the summer. The coaches, we spent the time packaging them and getting them all dispersed throughout the district, and then when the ladies just showed up in August, they had a nice little present on their doorstep with a little tag that said, "Thank you for all that you do, and here's some great additions to your library." The bottom picture there are some of the 3-5 titles that we were able to secure, and now we'd like to share with you some literacy in action pictures across the district. So what you will see, the essential that we're focusing on this year is small group instruction. So we're sharing with you some of the pictures of the teachers using these books in small groups, and then the classroom library. So that I believe is Brandy Scarborough from Cyrene. That is our very extensive library at Gaines. My 3rd and 4th grade team, that's just one section of theirs on the left there. That is Ms. Harden from, she's 1st grade, right? Yep, that's Cyrene. That is our small mini library at Gaines, where she also doubles that as a calming corner. On the right there. These are some of the pictures of the students with the books in the lower L. And then the little red bucket is where they're housed, taking turns reading the buddies. On the left, we are able to have read-alouds with the students, so that is I think that is a 2nd grade student.
My class.
Yep, your class. I was like, that's Lindsay's class, and they're doing reading, and then partner reading. And again, partner reading on the left, and in the right there. On the right, this is another just close-up shot of the literacy books that we were able to secure. And you'll notice that there are multiple titles of one book. When you're delivering small group instruction, you need anywhere from 4 to 8 books in order to create a book club and a collaborative workspace. That can get very expensive for teachers, so for them to be able to have this now is a huge advantage in their classroom. And then they're getting creative with reading around the room, so those two fellows are camping out underneath the table during their independent reading time. Another shot of the kids with the books. So these are titles again that we were able to secure, and as you can see, multiple titles, same titles for reading groups, and another read around the room on the right. And we're very excited, and do you have any questions for myself or the lovely second grade ladies?
I don't know if you two want to touch on it at all, but just as teachers that are, you're in the trenches every day, talk a little bit about what I've seen as I go around the schools all the time is the change from sitting in desks or tables to more of this. We want you to not only read what you're comfortable reading, we want you to be comfortable while you're reading what you're comfortable reading, right? So have you seen a change in that in your time teaching?
Yeah, this is my 15th year teaching, and it was, when I first started, I felt like everything was in your seat, kind of like when we were growing up. Now it's all about student choice, pick what books you're interested in, as long as, I kind of do it as long as they're based on their level. We do something called dessert reading at the end of their independent reading time, because everybody likes dessert after a meal. So their main course would be like from their book bag, level books, and then their dessert reading is, I tell them you can pick anything you want, any level, high, low, doesn't matter. Something they're interested in, just to, get them reading, getting a book in their hand. And then obviously choosing a spot to read, whether maybe they're comfortable laying on the floor. I've got pillows. Some kids still choose to sit in their seat, but student choice is huge. So that's what I found. No, same, and even beyond reading. We do a lot in our grade and other grades with clipboards, so the kids can do work sometimes just around the room wherever they're comfortable. And a lot of times they will go to the back table or their desk or the floor, under desks, under tables, wherever. But just giving them some of those choices on where they can sit and read and work.
Seems like you have to be pretty intentional about thinking about all these different spaces so kids have options though. So,
yeah.
Because some kids probably do like to sit at a desk or a table. So.
We also talk about, making wise choices on where you want to sit, where are you going to be successful. If, this is my best buddy, is this really a wise choice to sit next to her? Are we going to end up talking and not get our work done? And they do make wise choices about where they sit, as long as you teach and model it for them. So, yeah.
And as you travel through, I'd just like to add, as you travel through some of our classrooms, and we invite you to come, you're going to see more of that as we continue to move with our MTSS efforts, and we're moving from trauma aware to trauma sensitive. You're going to start seeing a ton more student choice and access for them to really own their learning and be engaged in it, especially with our district focus of purpose. Students are going to know why they're learning what they're learning. So we're very excited for that.
And our instructional coaches took a lot of time over the summer, not just to sort and package, but to put personal little touch and deliver that to, what do we have? Close to 70 classrooms, K-5, so they put a ton of effort into that.
So I have a question that's kind of related but not. So children have the ability to go to a book fair, correct?
Yes.
And it's possible that not all children have the means to buy a book. Is there a fund at the school, or does somebody watch out for those children who they could benefit from reading at home, but they may not have the money this week to buy a book? Is there any program like that, or do you know of any kind? My husband and I were talking about it while we were driving over the weekend, and my husband, that was my charge today, was to find out if the school has anything like that, because we both were remembering how important it was to buy that little book and take it home.
So something that I did was I just threw it out on Facebook. I was asking for family and friends to sponsor kids in my class. You know, donate $10. They'll get every child one book for 10 months, because Scholastic is really awesome and they have dollar books each month. And I had an overwhelming support. I mean, I went above the amount that I needed for all my kids. So then it allowed me to buy books for the classroom, replace books that I've had, you know, since I started that are falling apart. So, and just the excitement on the kids' face when they get a book each month, you know, they look forward to it and they get to keep it, because a lot of kids, you know, they don't even get to get a dollar book, you know, so.
I know, just personally, because I know Michelle Corbett, there was a, what did they call it? You Rounded Up, that's what it's called, a Roundup program at their book fair, where, so if I was sending in money for my kid and it came out to be $3.64, rounded up, that money, that extra change went into a fund, and at the end, all of any of the parents that purchased that got rounded up actually went back into the classroom books, and there were additional books that were purchased for the school. But I know it's been a little bit since I've had an elementary student, but I remember something where I could, in sending in my stuff for my own kid, like add for a kid who didn't. But yeah, I would be interested to know if that's available too.
So that was at a Scholastic. We used to run a table where you could put aside money for kids, and they also did different matches where you could earn so much from the book fair, and then we would take that amount and then go through and find everyone who didn't get a book and make sure that those kids got books as well. So Scholastic has a lot of opportunities to either donate or in the money that they bring in the fair to make sure that kids
And I'm sure they can make the money go much further as the distributor.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
And I would agree with Rod, that's pretty much what we're doing now. If you have 2 book fairs, the third book fair is buy one, get one free. So we're very strategic about making sure that students pick 2 books, and if they, you know, do you want to give one to a friend, things like that, and the money that's left over, we ensure that all of the children go home with a book, even if it is the dollar book. And that's been super helpful. The community has rallied around a lot of teachers in this district, because it's a dollar book and it's $10 donation, and so every kid every month gets to go home with a book. So it's a really cool way to do that.
So you're saying that the individual teachers are doing that?
Yeah,
It's not something at a school level or a district level, but
Not at this time.
Yeah, and both of these teachers here are incredible. They are serving on the GISD. They've both at different times, I don't know if you both are still, but they've served on our GISD literacy team. So they go to the county and they're basically teaching other teachers around the county how to teach literacy. So we're looking at 2 experts here, and they do such a great job with our kids. And to give kudos, similar to what Lindsay was saying, and a lot of our teachers are doing this, if we know about it, we're trying to help out. If there's we would never let a kid go without getting a book. But a lot of times we just don't know about it, and teachers are taking care of that on their own. There's teachers that are giving their own, out of their own pocket, they're taking care of these kids. And so we are blessed with amazing staff that we would not want them to do that. We would try and take care of it, but they're just taking care of it on their own because they feel like they want that kid to have a book. And so similar to what you're hearing tonight, it's really pretty amazing where we work and serve here, because they are incredible about taking care of the kids.
And
Thank
we
you
do
for
just
that.
one last thing. A grandparent of a student assigned Teresa Spence. She gave all the classrooms $100 to spend on books for kids who don't have them, or just all the kids. So we're fortunate this year to have that.
Very nice. Very nice.
How much money did you get on the 35A?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Heatherton. He is the one that supports a lot of that grant finding money for us and securing a lot of that for us to be a
38. It's
38.
between 35 and 40,000.
So for the K through 5, for all of our elementary schools, we got 40,000. Was it a matching grant, or did we have to pay anything towards it?
No, we just got it for me filling out a Google survey. And then we have to report on our kids.
Is that available every year, Rod?
Is
this the first grant, or is this the second grant, or third grant?
We've had multiple little 30 to 40,000. I think we've averaged on the different instructional grants between 80 and 100 over the last 3 years. I know that some of the reimbursement ones have gone away, and we haven't really heard about 35A yet. So
A lot of
So
them are
that
federal.
money brings in 100 books, or 50 to 100 books per classroom, for every classroom K through 5.
Yeah, that was a majority of the grant, and then we did some intervention work too for K3, for the intervention groups. So
What do we do with those books after a year? Do we reuse them next year, or do we write another, are we gonna write another grant, or could we?
well, that went to their classroom libraries.
Right.
So their libraries had not been updated in
I see.
quite some time.
So that
this was-
replenished the depleted libraries, that's why we needed that?
Yes.
And will we be able to do this next year?
If we have more grant money for K3 literacy, we will spend it every year.
Well, so that'll help solve the problem, though, is what I'm looking for to the board. Either we come up with the money, or you're gonna write grant money. So if she says she has a problem, parents should not be paying for it. So if we can search out new monies, and we get 50 to 100 books per year, per classroom, it'll solve itself hopefully within a year or two.
Right.
I mean, not all of it, but a great majority of it, would you say, if that happened every year?
It is
I
honestly
mean,
a
you
really
guys have
nice
been there
addition.
15 years, so
Yeah.
you tell me.
Yeah, I spend a lot of my own money every month.
God
you know,
bless you. Yeah,
Scholastic.
I know a lot
I
of
love
teachers do,
Scholastic
yeah.
book orders, but I like to have an overabundance of books in the classroom. You know, just anytime kids say, "Hey, can we get this book?"
Of
Sure,
course.
right on it. You know, so
Yeah.
just whatever will get them to read.
Would you say that's a majority of your children, or the minority? With the computers that we were just talking about earlier on the coddling of children.
They,
Now, I'm hearing two things here, so you tell me.
my opinion on.
Yeah. Yes,
on
yes,
that
please,
stuff,
you've been there 15 years,
um,
at a grade level, yeah.
I think it's too much, you know. I'm a parent of 2 girls, and it's very, very limited. We don't have video games at home. They have a limited amount of time of TV. Tablets, not at all during the week. They get about 20 minutes before bed on the weekend. Yeah, no cell phones.
What about your other children in your classroom, what do you think?
I think it's crazy that 2nd graders have cell phones. To be honest, I mean, I do. I don't see
What
the
would you
purpose.
say the percentage is, roughly? Take it,
Easily half of my classes talk about cell phones.
and then you still think that a lot of those kids still want books, or they want their cell phones?
They love getting them. I mean, in class they get very excited
Good.
about it.
Maybe the other children are encouraging them that don't have cell phones. Good, that's good that's good,
Yeah.
good feedback for me, thank you,
Yep.
thank you.
Great program. It is
Oh.
actually, before they get to you, I have something to add. So I don't know if we utilize or if we advocate for it. We have a population, I think, that we need to grasp early, when we're talking about increasing lower literacy rates. We have a Little Dragons Learning Center, and there are programs out there for free books, again. Do we promote the Dolly Parton books at home? It's they literally deliver them to the home, and they're for birth through 5, I wanna say. Or birth through 3 maybe, but.
I've not heard of that
I will get you that information. It is literally all they have to do is fill out their name and address and be willing to have it sent to their house, and it's amazing.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very,
You wrote
very
that
easy,
down,
and
right,
that's.
Good.
So, just another way to hit them early, so by the time they get to you, hopefully they're already starting to read at home, or
Yeah, that's fantastic.
mom's reading with them or something. So hopefully at kindergarten, it's not the first time that they've had to read.
Sure.
Well, thank you, ladies. Appreciate all the work that you
Thank you.
do.
Yeah, great job.
Hope you can come back and update us. And if you'd like to leave, feel free to do so.
Mhm.
I know you
If
have.
you have children, make sure they're
We
not.
won't be offended, for sure.
We got little ones. Well, mine aren't so little, but my youngest one's
They're home on their tablets, hurry up.
Oh,
And you
no.
catch them, so you guys
Mine
can
better
take
be
care
in
of
bed,
them.
so.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Guys,
Thank
thank you so much.
Thanks, Katie. Appreciate it.
Bye, guys. Have a good night.
Okay. And now our audit presentation.
I'd like to introduce Jeff Zabala. He's from Lewis and Knopf, and he is one of the fine gentlemen that has come through and audited our records this year. And I'll turn it over to him. He can give you the update.
Behind Manny Wall, slide back here. As Mike had said, first I'll introduce myself. Jeff Sabalis from, always been a horse, coach a lot of basketball.
Would you like some water, Jeff?
No, I'm
Sure.
okay, Carrie.
Okay.
I'm okay. So, anyway, I'm Jeff Sabalis with Lewis and Knopf. partner in charge of this particular district's audit. Our firm does anywhere from 30 to 35 audits of school districts in a year, of which I'm proud to partner on 20 to 22, 24 of those. And as Mike had said earlier, the finance committee and myself had met on Monday, I believe it was. We reviewed things in more detail with certain procedures that we go through, et cetera. But what I brought tonight, kind of at a higher level, is this PowerPoint presentation here. It's printed out. So I'll go through that and look through some of the highlights, and feel free to ask any questions. So I'm going to page 2 if everyone has that PowerPoint here. And the auditor's opinion. What we give as CPAs is an opinion on the financial statement, and whether or not they're free from material misstatement, and whether or not they're in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Okay, so from the district's perspective, one of their responsibilities from the financial perspective is to prepare the financial statements and then design, implement, and monitor a system of internal control. Our job, and one of our responsibilities, I mean there's a lot more to it, but to boil it down, is to give an opinion on the financial statements and to ascertain whether or not they're in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So that leads us to what type of opinion we give on a financial statement. So the highest level of assurance is that of a clean or an unmodified opinion. So that's our firm's opinion on the financial statement this year, and it was last year as well. And, so when we give that unmodified opinion, what we're saying is the statements are in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles and they're free from material misstatement. In getting to that point, as I mentioned a minute ago, one of the district's responsibilities is to design, implement, and monitor internal controls. Okay, so as part of the audit, what we do is we identify cycles. Okay, and the cycles we look at are revenue cycles, the payroll cycle, other disbursement cycle, as well as the federal awards. Okay, and what we do with respect to internal controls is we get a narrative from Chris as to how internal controls work, and how internal controls work within a district, who approves what, how a requisition goes to a purchase order, and it goes to a packing or delivery slip, to an invoice, to payment, okay, and who approves the payment, finance committee, board, so on and so forth, okay. So what we do with respect to internal controls, we take a sample in each of those cycles after we get the narrative from Chris as to how internal controls work. So we took a selection of items in each of those cycles, and what we found in reviewing those transactions is that the internal controls are working as purported to work, okay? And what we'll do with a district, if we see anything that really could be strengthened, or if we're seeing that items are being missed, maybe items are getting posted to the wrong general ledger account, maybe we see sometimes that there's not proper approval, things of that nature. Again, I'm not suggesting that happened here. We didn't see anything on the selection that we took. But those are the kind of things that we'll bring to the attention of the district. And if it escalates to a high enough level where we think that the holes, for lack of a better term, in internal control may lead to material misstatements of the financial statement, then we kind of take a deeper dive on it. We either take a bigger sample, say, hey, what's going on here, strengthen the internal control, so on and so forth. So, as we went through that selection, we didn't see any issues with respect to internal control. On the next page, the auditor's opinion with respect to federal awards. If a district's federal funds that they receive are more than $750,000, an audit of those funds are required. This year, we audited the nutrition cluster. Okay, that represents about a third of the roughly $3 million in federal awards that the district receives. No findings there. What we do there is there's a compliance matrix that the federal government, Office of Management Budget, gives supplies. It says, hey, these are the things you have to test. So with respect to nutrition, we look at things like eligibility, whether the costs are allowable or not. Okay, so eligibility, we're just seeing if we've got people that are receiving free lunch actually qualify for free lunch. We're looking to see if it's reduced, it's reduced, okay? Allowable costs are fairly simple. Are we paying Gordon's Food Service? Are we paying Aunt Millie's? Are we paying Country Fresh? That kind of thing, okay? There's not a, it's pretty easy to tell. You know, you just kind of go through a list of checks and say, yeah, that looks like food to me, kind of thing, okay? So, yeah, those are the kind of things we test. In addition to a couple of other tests that we do with respect to allowable fund balance. A district is allowed to keep on hand 3 months' worth of expenditures, basically based upon a 9-month year, because you're really in the business of feeding students for 9 months of the year. I know there's, in some districts, there's summer feed programs and so on and so forth, but, you know, the bulk of it's within a 9-month period. So, you know, we test to see if you're in compliance with allowable fund balance. So, again, with respect to the audit on the federal awards piece, we looked at nutrition and we didn't have any findings there. As I move on to the next page, the changes in fund balance. That column on the left, I mean, what you see there is the revenue expenditures, the net changes in the respective fund balances, and then the fund balances as of June 30th. Okay, remember, it's just a point in time, June 30th, 2019. So if we look in that left-hand column, the general fund, there's a little bit more than $38 million in revenue in the general fund, and that's predominantly that's your state aid, your foundation allowance items. And in addition, again, remember we're just talking about the general fund here, property tax, local property tax revenue, and your federal awards, okay, your non-food service or nutrition federal awards are the biggest pieces of that revenue. Okay, some of the tests that we do there, most of that information is verifiable through third-party sources. Okay, so state aid, for example, each month Chris gets a state aid status report showing whether we're getting restricted or unrestricted funds, basically. The bulk of it is our foundation allowance that we get, and then we'll get at-risk money, things like 35A money, so on and so forth, okay? Those kind of have a specific purpose. We call those categoricals, okay? So we're able to verify or confirm our state aid numbers. With respect to property taxes, what we look at is geographically the district's, you know, it's got a lot of moving parts. Okay, some districts, as we were talking at the finance committee level, some districts get property taxes from one municipality. Okay, not the case here. So what we have access to through the MDE is the taxable values of each of the respective townships, you know, the tax collecting entities. Okay, so what Chris will do is she will make a calculation based upon those taxable values and millage rates as to what we expect property taxes to be. And usually you'll find a variance, and it's, most cases it's delinquent taxes is what it is, okay? You're collecting last year's delinquent taxes and not collecting some taxes this year, that kind of thing. Okay, so what we're trying to do there with respect to property taxes is get a handle on, did we collect relatively close to what we expected to collect, okay? Now, us as auditors, if we see that maybe this township's under, or it's over, or maybe if, now that we have, excuse me, in districts that have debt, okay, that are collecting a debt millage as well as general fund, sometimes what you'll see in districts is one is over and one is under. And you say, who's identifying if it's general fund or if it's a debt fund or a sinking fund, okay? So, you know, the concern there is if, say we go through our calculations and we see what we actually collected, if we're under on a sinking fund or a debt fund, then we say to ourselves, well, are we using the collected monies for the right purpose? Okay. We want to make sure that these numbers or these dollars get in the right pots. They get in the general fund and they get in the debt or sinking fund. Okay, so from an auditing perspective, you know, if we're to find that there's a discrepancy there that's not explainable, you know, then we'll dig in with the township or whomever it is and say, you gotta explain this one to us. Okay, why, you know, we're supposed to have 500,000 in general fund dollars and 400,000 in debt fund, but we got 450 and 450. Why is that? Okay, you know, for example, Chris's supporting documentation would say the 450 and 450, but the calculations would say 500 and 400. You know, we get circumstances like that, and I'm not suggesting that happened here. I'm just telling you part of the procedures that we go through. If we ever see something like that, that's when we take that deeper dive, start asking questions, get in contact with the municipalities to see, make sure those dollars are accounted for properly. So that's kind of the revenue piece on the general fund. With respect to expenditures, the big cycles there, as we'll see in a couple slides later, we've got payroll and other disbursements. Payroll in most districts are right around 80% of general fund expenditures. We do a number of tests with respect to payroll. Net changes in general fund, we had an addition to the general fund balance of 330,000. Ending fund balance, again, that's just the general fund, as of 6/30/19 was about 3.2 million, which represents 8.4% of the average general fund expenditures for 6/30/19. That next column there, the capital project fund, that's a combination of the new bond money plus the sinking fund, capital project fund. So that's what you see in that column there. As of June 30th, 19, not a whole lot of that bond, well, I mean, dollar-wise, yes, but with respect to the whole $48 million pot, not a whole lot of bond money was spent. Mike had talked earlier about bond budgets and so on and so forth, but what we do from an auditing perspective with respect to whether it's sinking fund money or bond money is at the completion of the spending of the bond dollars, it's required to do an audit of the bond expenditures. Okay, and then we submit that to the state. So what we do year by year as the expenditures are incurred is we get a sample of the expenditures, the supporting documentation. We look for the appropriate approvals, whether the expenditures are made in accordance with ballot language, allowable uses according to the state, that kind of thing. Okay, so, you know, again, not a whole lot of the money was spent at the end of 6/30/19, but we did look at those expenditures. Things are being spent in accordance with the allowable uses, ballot language, and have proper approval. And we'll continue to do that, you know, as the bond money is spent year to year. Debt funds functioning how intended, you know, collection of property taxes, paying off existing debt. Food service, you know, one thing we did look at in food service is food service revenue from 17/18 to 18/19 actually increased. You know, kind of counterintuitive to student count. You know, student count's a big driver of food service, more people eat. So, you know, our initial take is we look at an analytic of that revenue and say, we create an expectation. Should it have gone up? Should it have gone down? So, you know, our first thought is, hey, it's gonna go down a little bit. You know, you had maybe a 2.5–3% decrease in your student count, so you would think, it's gotta go down. Well, in fact, it went up, okay? And the reason it went up is the reimbursement rates exceeded, the increase in the reimbursement rates exceeded the decrease in the student count. So, you know, we'll do things like that to make sure that what we think's gonna happen, what we would expect to happen, we've got a good explanation as to why perhaps something different happened, okay? And that last column you see there, the community ed fund, is just a transfer over to the general fund. What the state will do at times is when they see the financial statements of districts, we think back a while ago, athletics used to be a separate fund, but because the general fund had to subsidize it, they just said, yeah, it's just part of the general fund. That's kind of what happened with the community ed fund. Then go on to the next
Can we
page.
stop there, Jeff?
Yeah, sure,
I'm
sure.
sorry, Brian, did you have a question? Oh. Capital projects,
Uh-huh.
49,999,050
Mm-hmm.
million. We spent 3 million, brought us down to 46.9.
Mm-hmm.
We end up with a fund balance of 48 million. I know I'm on the finance committee, and I listened to you the other day, but let me reiterate. We're at more money than our net change, but that was because of the interest, is that right? Is that why we're actually have more money?
That's actually, you wanna answer that?
Well, I wanna know why, yeah, because we spent 3, but we're still high.
That's a combination of the sinking fund capital projects.
Got it.
As well as the new bond money. Okay. So
Is there a way to split that out?
You'll
Or-
see it in the finance,
Okay.
there is a way to split it out, it's split out within the financial statements. I believe it's on page 4. Page 4 is the big one,
Okay.
you know, the 42 million, 48 million one.
Do we collect money on food services money when we have a balance? Does anybody know that answer?
Do we collect money on food services when,
We have a balance. So if we have $420,000 sitting in a pot, are we allowed to make money on that in interest? Or is that because it's Fed money that we can't do it?
Right,
That's
yeah,
what I'm
we're-
asking a question.
we're not allowed to do that. So essentially, if you've got money that is, the money has to go towards, the regulatory amounts have to go towards the kids. So we set those prices. So if you have, you can't subsidize and say we made money in food service and then we'd like to pull that in to our general fund ledger. It has to stay with, is that what you're asking?
Are you just referring to, can you invest it? Make money
Yes,
that
if
way?
if we had
Oh.
1.7 million awarded, we only spent 1.6 million on food services, leaves us with $130,000. We have a fund balance from the last year of 100,000. That 230, where's it sitting at?
In our checking account, and it earns interest.
Okay, is there a way for us to invest that as long as it's still dedicated for food service instead of just letting it sit there?
It's not that high of a balance where we would find an investment in, you know, because at any time we might make a decision to buy equipment, so we kinda have a liquidity factor there.
One of the things that the state requires
Mhm.
too
Okay.
is that they set a threshold of what your fund balance for food service. So our general fund balance, we could run that all the way up to
Millions.
20%. In food service, if they see your fund balance exceed a certain threshold, they actually
Won't get
it's a
us-
violation. And
Right.
so they send us nasty grams and they basically say you got to spend down your fund balance to get within.
And that's when we can buy equipment then, or something that we
Correct.
need.
Yeah, you're right.
But do we need to keep a fund balance of 420, 430 without investing some of it in a CD? They were paying 4% on CDs here a few months ago, which they're not now, but they were. Well, we could have transferred 200,000.
There's a planning piece of it, and that's what
Okay,
we're working.
we'll talk about it at the finance meeting, but I just wanna know what we can do with this money, okay?
Sure.
Thank you, Jeff, sorry to interrupt.
No, not at all. Great thought. See, just, if we look at that slide, just real briefly, at number 4, back to slide 4 there.
Okay.
If you look at those expenditures, and it's, and add on to, Ben's comment regarding how much you can keep in the food service.
Right.
fund. So, just to make the math simple, okay, let's say that the expenditure, they're $1,645,000, but let's just say they were $1.8 million. so I can make math simple, okay? All right, so the first step, I mean, there's certain adjustments for things like capital outlay, but let's just say there was no capital outlay. So in that 1.8 million, what the state says is basically you're in business 9 months a year, feeding people, okay? So they will allow you to retain 3 months worth of expenditures. So under my example, we take that 1.8 million divided by 9, that'd be 200,000 a month, and you could multiply by 3. So you could retain 600,000.
Well, you just gave us the formula, and that's great.
Yeah.
Or we could take the money and maybe feed kids over the summer, like we've done, and that's kind of where I'm looking at this money. Do we put it in the bank, or do we use it, and so we don't meet that threshold with federal money, and donate it to the community? If it's federal money that's sitting in our bank, why wouldn't we? But now I got the formula, so you're saying we could have a 3-month balance.
3 months.
Simple. Got it.
3 months.
Can I ask a quick question?
So that's good.
And
It's
then,
about
is that
600
part of
grand.
the liquidity piece?
It's a good
is,
question.
I mean, we've been in a position where the federal government shuts down, and when they do, we need to have money available because our business still operates, so
Yeah.
we've gotta have some there to
Exactly.
make sure that we can
Oh,
keep
of
going.
course. Yeah, we gotta have some operating, but if we have an excessive amount, we either do some programs in the summer or we invest some of it, and as long as it's not being spent on anything else.
NDE also recommends one of the options when you start to see an increase in the fund balance in your food services, to increase the quality of food, and that's something that Michael said has started to institute.
Perfect.
You know, fresh fruits and vegetables, the higher quality looking items, that's one of the things that NDE really looks at.
Nice.
And
Good.
that's kind of the idea, Chuck, I mean, everybody's well aware, is that the food service program is there to feed people, not to be profitable.
Right.
Okay, so, they say, hey, here's 3 months.
Right.
That's a reasonable amount of operating capital for timing and whatnot.
So we're almost at 2 million, so you're right, about 600 grand. But if we could invest it in equipment that's maybe not up to par or whatever.
Absolutely.
With, like Alicia says, I'll keep some money in case the feds say, hey, we're not giving you any money this month because they got a snafu and a shutdown in government or whatever they may have, which I agree with. Great. That's good. That helps me understand it. Thank you, Jeff.
And the investment, Chris can give you more information on this. The investments that you can put the money in is really highly restricted.
Right. I don't wanna make money on it. I wanna keep money for there, and if we got it sitting somewhere, I wanna make something so we can buy something for the school district in the future if we need it next year. There's no sense in us not making 10 or 20 grand and buying a new whatever we need.
Dragon Diner too.
Dragon Diner tour for Fryer breaks down and Michael comes in and says, hey, we need 30 or 40 grand. We're wishing now we didn't make interest on it last year, sitting somewhere. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Next page, page 5, general fund revenue. Again, about 38.2 million in general fund revenue. That pie chart there is just a split on how much came from the state, how much is local property taxes, and how much is federal awards. Okay, so those dollars, the way they break down, it's about 29 million state. And again, that's in part your foundation allowance and in part the categoricals they get, the at-risks and so on and so forth. 6.7 million, that 18% is about 6.7 million in property taxes, and then as far as the general fund piece of the federal awards goes, that was about 1.7 million. Next page, page 6 is the split on what we call function by function. That's just our accounting term for it, by function of how much of that 37.8 million was spent on certain functions. So the instruction piece of that's about 59%. Okay, what we find in most districts is they'll hover right around 60%, plus or minus a couple percent. The instruction piece of that 37.8 million was about 23 million. And then the support piece was 38%, and smattering of other things for the other 3%. Peer group information, Chris, what is that bulletin? 10, 11, I think? 10, 11? Yeah,
The next
okay.
one of the bulletin number.
Okay, so what's available, you know, if you're interested in getting peer group information, what the state does is they accumulate information based upon the enrollment and student count within districts, okay? And it's bulletin 10, I believe it's 1011, and you can just look it up, you know. One of the two, okay? But peer group information is available there. So the state accumulates the information and takes averages, okay, about, you know, in your case, you know, the district of 3,600 students. What is the, for example, what's the general fund expenditures per student? That kind of thing. What can that do? What does that do? What does that type of information do? It can tell you some things about the demographics of your district. Okay, how much are you getting in federal awards, so on and so forth. How much you're getting from property tax revenue, that kind of thing. So that information is out there if you wanted to look it up. Next page is split on it's general fund expenditures by what we call object code. And the burgundy, on page 7, the burgundy piece of that pie there, 48% is salaries, 32% is benefits. Benefits pot is health insurance, retirement, and payroll taxes. Okay, so that combination of the two, 80% of your general fund expenditures are basically personnel costs. And that too, you know, as I mentioned with the 59–60% on the instruction piece, that 80% is pretty typical. Okay. Where we'll see that vary, especially in this area, is to the extent that districts will use GECs, you know, as a employment source. That will then kind of shift out of the personnel cost and into what we call purchase services. So, you know, in some districts, you kind of got to dig into purchase services and really pull it back into personnel. It's still personnel cost. But here, that 80% is pretty consistent with what you see at most districts. Next page, page 8, comparing budget to actual. Final budget for revenues was $38.27 million. The actual was, you know, about $100,000 under that. On the expenditure side, $38.34 million in on the final budget for expenditures compared to $37.84 million with actual expenditures. So that variance was about $500,000. So we're under about $500,000 spent, and about under $100,000 on the revenue piece. Overall, comparing the final budget, we had anticipated a use of $65,000, and the actual was a addition to the fund balance of $330,000. Causes of that, in a lot of cases, first of all, those are given the dollars, those are pretty small variances. Okay, given the $38 million that we're looking at, pretty small variances. But typical reasons that you'll see unders are you haven't spent all your grant dollars. So if you haven't spent all your grant dollars, you also haven't incurred, you won't get the revenue because you haven't asked for reimbursement on it. So those two will kind of go together. And then in a lot of cases, just we didn't spend what we thought we were going to spend, you know, that kind of thing. Next page, just a recap on the debt. Okay, and again, that's detailed in the financial statements, but the general obligation bonds of about 56 million, and then the notes from direct borrowings, I think that's still the money on the cage, and then the other employee obligations are basically compensated. So you'll see a note there that says the district issued $42 million in building and site bond funds during the year. The proceeds were 48, but that included a $6 million premium on those bonds, just because of interest rate differentials between the market and what your bonds are paying. Next page on page 10, that refers what that's referring to is kind of within your financial statements. You kind of have two sets of financial statements. One is the fund level, the general fund, food service, capital projects, and then you have what we call the government-wide level. And on the government-wide level, what districts are required to do is report their share of the unfunded retirement plan at the state level and the unfunded portion of the healthcare costs, retirees' healthcare costs at the state level. So net liabilities over assets that are in the state MIPSers, the Michigan Public Employees Retirement System Plan, there's a shortfall of about 30 billion. Okay, so each district reports their share, and Swartz Creek's share of that pot is 63 million. And on the healthcare side, healthcare piece, that's underfunded by 8 billion, and Swartz Creek's share of that is 17 million. So we pull that into what's called your statement of net position. So that results in what you have, what we call a net position deficit. Again, that's not your general fund, that's not your operating fund. Of 52 million. There's not a district in the state other than charter schools that isn't negative because of this net pension liability and net OPEB liability. The idea here is the original thought when we started receiving additional 147C money. That's the additional money that the state kicks in. It goes from the state to the school district, and the school district back into the retirement system. The idea there is that we get flush about 23 years from when this thing started. So we're 5 years into it now, Chris. And, based on actuarial assumptions, aging workforce, investment returns, so on and so forth. There's a lot of assumptions that go into this. Actually, the liabilities increase. OPEB's gone down a little bit, but the pension liability, the differential between the liability and the underlying assets has gotten bigger. So, again, the idea is that if we're standing here 20 years from now and we're giving the same report, that number's a zero. We don't have any net pension liability or.
How much are we paying into that extra then every year for the 20 years? Have you guys scoped that out?
Yeah.
It's like, it's a percentage of our payroll, but like you said, the state gives us money and then we pay back out. So
Right. But still, we have 63 million to pay for our district. The state's giving us money. We're funding it back in. Are we funding in any extra?
Well, only at a required amount, so.
Okay.
Only with the required. What's happened, Chuck, over the last.
So 20 times 63, so they're giving us $3 million a year, theoretically?
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, we'd have to look that up on our, it's available. That information's available on a state aid status report. I don't recall the number offhand, Chuck, either. But again, the districts act as kind of the intermediary between the state and the retirement system. Okay, so it's kind of funded in two ways. One is the state gives you extra money, and then the second way is it's on the district. It's the district's responsibility because what they've been doing over the last, since forever, but it's really ramped up in probably the last 6-7 years. That rate has gone from 17% into 30%, so.
That's what we were talking about earlier this year, that retirement rate that we pay for our own employees.
It's about 38%, you said.
It's about 30% now, I think, isn't it? It's really kind of ramped up. So that 30% retirement rate factor helps, the state sets that number for all school districts to basically help pay this down.
Right.
So
the state gives us some, but then the state also says, well, you gotta give more of your own. So that's.
So is there any discrepancies in us? Are we paying what we do? That's why all these municipalities are in trouble with their debt retirement. Because no one's ever paid it, and then 10 years from now, retirees say, oh, we don't have anything to pay them.
We are required to pay the amount calculated and is uploaded and checked and verified and.
Good.
Is spot on.
I want to make sure our teachers get their retirement, so if they retire in 10 years from now, somebody didn't say,
Or else would not be happy if we didn't have.
Right, right. Well, the county, cities, a lot of us are retirees from other municipalities, and they're all having this problem, so I'm just making sure that we're good.
Sure.
Okay.
Paying in what is required, you know, and again, that's based on a lot of actuarial calculations that project out years into the future. So, I guess with that being said, that was the last slide there. Chris, the rest of Christie, the rest of the people in the business office, all good answers, really prompt, timely information. You know, went over a few other things at the finance committee level, but really nothing out of the ordinary between, you know, comparing Swartz Creek and the other districts. So, again, clean opinion on the financial statements, no findings with respect to internal control or the federal award book. Anyway, again, we did, Mike and Chuck and Jessica, Chris, Ben and I discussed some other matters, okay? And I believe there's a letter there that, you know, if you have any questions as you read through that, you know, just let Chris know and I'll certainly get you a response.
Thank you, Jeff.
Any other questions for Jeff? Thank you very much, appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Jerry. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Chris. Thanks to your team, Chris. Thank you so much.
They do a nice job. They do a very well.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on, we have annual state aid borrowing resolution.
We have 9D just before we get to there. Sorry, I'll go fast.
Oh, sorry, bond update.
Yep. So
I did want to let you do that.
So I just want you to, I want to just kind of report a couple things. First of all, on progress, we have been talking with the construction managers as well as the architects and design team on just a way to try and help the board, us as a team, make decisions on the way all of these improvements are going to occur. We had expected to start the projects by now. I think with the Flint water situation, there have been a lot of more recent regulations, even in the last couple months, that have come up in terms of sewage, water, you know, those types of things. We're not disturbing the amount of earth required to have those permits, but they're requiring them anyway as of the last couple months, and so several projects have been delayed as a result of that. I did have some conversations with them at the county today, and they're doing their best to kind of fast track us and get us out there. I'm hoping that by next week we have excavators moving dirt around. We have our materials are ready, our contractors are chomping at the bit. We just need the last couple things to get going. Just so you're aware, the elementary schools are in good hands in terms of material ordering and all that. Those are ready to start. We're delayed, obviously, but we're hoping to start soon. Our middle school is very well underway in terms of design. They're hoping to bid that out at the end of next month. So when I say bid that out, I mean they're going to have the design documents to Woolgas. So by that first, we have 2 board meetings in December. I'd say that first board meeting in December, those bids will have gone out. So we'll have some discussion before then. That's going to be for the middle school. The high school complex, the South High School complex, this building, the athletic stadium, which is set to be delivered by the fall of 2020 next year. That is close to being able to be bid out as well. And so those designs are underway. I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about how we manage the budget, and I'm going to use the word budget in a way that is a little bit different than the general fund budget. So when we went to the state of Michigan and applied for the bond, some of you will remember we put a preliminary qualification document together. It's basically like, we're guesstimating this is the amount of money we think it's going to cost us for all of these projects at these areas. Now remember, none of the projects had even been designed yet. So that was before any architects had designed the project, right? Those were based on contractors' best guess amounts on square footage pricing and things like that. We went ahead and submitted that document, and then that document becomes a living document that changes. But what the Treasury does is they ensure essentially that the money that we put in those categories matches our ballot language and everything that we've said we're going to deliver. So that document, even though it's outdated and we know that it changes, still serves as kind of a baseline. So I'm going to pass around a couple things to get you, just real quickly. I know you've looked at a lot of numbers today. I'll pass these around. Just one. They're by paperclip. So the first document, which is something that I give to you and I've given to you the past few months, this is our budget status by level. So this basically is, if you look at this document, this is our actual spending out of our account. So when you think about our checking account and when we're writing checks and you're approving those purchases, this is our straight out of our financial software. So everything we're spending is right in here, okay? So that's a document that you'll get monthly at every board meeting and sooner if you want it. I'd also like to draw your attention to another document, and that's this one, and I've been giving you this document as well. This is a budget from Woolgas, who's our construction manager. So let me explain why this one's important. They have essentially taken the preliminary qualification document, and that's what's serving as their baseline budget numbers. But what they do is they track the direct construction costs. So everything that's above this middle line, it says direct construction costs here. Everything that's above there is when Woolgas is writing a check to a contractor, right? Or we're paying that out, they're essentially saying, well, the drywall guy didn't need as much drywall, so we only had to spend this. So they're putting the exact amount of direct construction costs, okay? Now, we're also tracking that right here because we know exactly what checks we're writing, and you can kind of compare that. But this is Woolgas. Woolgas doesn't have all of the detail that we monitor. So if you look at this budget right here, okay, this is something that Chris has been very diligent about creating. This document essentially shows, again, ties back to the preliminary qualification document. And so what we do is we look and we say, okay, and this is a report that we just met with the design team today. So let's just take Morrish Elementary School. If we knew we were going to spend $3 million at Morrish Elementary School to get whatever we promised the community done. So if we promised the community we were gonna put a safe, secure entry in there, and we were gonna upgrade the doors, and we were gonna put a makerspace, and we have these list of things we're gonna do. So let's say there's 10 things we're gonna do at Morrish Elementary School. We have bid out, and we're gonna get this document together so we can clearly show we've bid out these packages. These packages are gonna cost us $2 million of that $3 million. I'm throwing round numbers around, okay? And of the projects we bid out, 8 of the 10 bullets that we have to get done at Morrish are completed. So we know now we have $1 million left to spend, and we still have to hit these 2 bullets, right? We're going to provide that document from the design team, but I want you to understand how we track that based on every single time we write a check and every project that's done, and that's all here for any of you to see and to look at. So your job, which you did when a few board meetings ago, is to oversee all of the bond expenditures. So when we look at a package that's going to be crafted, we're going to send a package out to bid. No monies can be spent on those projects until the board approves. And you saw the arduous process of going through and what it takes to approve those. So once you make an approval, you're essentially casting a budget amount, if you will, to say, here we are approving these projects in accordance to the law to be able to spend the money on these projects for these amounts of dollars. You also have, we've talked about in change orders, which is a very small amount, I will have to make some decisions on the fly. But it's if there's something substantial that goes above that, we're coming back to the board, and the board has to decide how they're going to do that. So you'll be able to track and manage with me. We're going to give you this every month as we have been, along with Woolgas, along with our actual finance software printout. And we are now going to be creating a report that I think is going to be a one-page, easy to understand, and I'm going to do it to try and push out as well to the community to say, we've approved bids for these jobs, this amount of money, we have this much money left to spend on that project, okay? And then we have to still do these two things. When we get those documents together, I'll send them to you in an update. I think that will make a little bit more sense. But you hopefully can understand there's no new information other than what you have here. It's just explaining it a little differently so you know what do we still have left to get accomplished. If we get through this and let's say we have money left over, which we're not planning on. As of right now, we're keeping the money in the appropriate buckets. But let's just say in a year and a half we realize we finished all the elementary schools and we saved money. We did better than we expected. Then we're going to the steering committee, and the steering committee is saying, okay, we're gonna recommend that we finish this project that we cut back at another building, or that we do something different, and then it's gonna come to a whole board conversation and discussion. So you are the arbiters of the funds for this project. My job is to help keep you informed of what's going on, as well as the steering committee's job is to keep informed. And as of right now, Mike and sometimes Tony's on there, and Brian sit on that committee. But if there's other questions that you have about how that's being done, we do follow the guidance from our legal counsel for the bond. And this process has been vetted, and this is what schools do for capital project bonds. So I wanted to make sure you're aware, you understand exactly what we're doing, and that you have all of the documents. So we'll continue to update these every month as we get them. So anytime we write a check, it's this report, it's a financial report. Woolgas will provide us the direct construction cost details from the field, and we're gonna double check that by our own financial information. So we have that tied back. The last document, so you'll get 4 documents. The last document that you'll be getting hopefully within the next couple weeks, as we now are creating this, is that 1-page, simple to understand. We've approved this much for this building. We have these jobs to do. So that's coming at a later date. Does anybody have any questions about kind of that process or anything else on that?
Nice stuff. Thank you. Very nice.
Yep.
Okay, now we'll go to the annual state aid borrowing resolution. I was so excited to get there.
All right, so this is a resolution that's done every year. I just asked Chris if she could, there's really good news. This is good news around this. So I'll have her just explain briefly what this is. We do it every year, and why it's good news.
Well, we're looking at borrowing about 1.5 million this year, down from 2.7. So we didn't just come up with that number out of the air. Did a cash analysis and looked at the highs and lows during the year. And really, what drives it is we receive our state aid around the 20th of the month, but we have payroll to meet at different dates. So that's really the reason for the borrowing, to kind of smooth out when our state aid comes in and when we have outflows of money. Kind of smooths it out for the year. So we're looking at borrowing less money. So what will happen is if the resolution goes through, then tomorrow we'll Troon put together the resolution and the solicitation for bids. We'll send that out to several banks and institutions that do this kind of borrowing. And then on the 12th, we'll have a bid opening, which Troon is, they kind of organize it. And it also goes out, the bid goes out to MAC. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that. It's called Municipal Advisory Council. I guess, there may be other opportunities for other bidders. So they put it out there. And then get our bids back on the 12th. And the lowest bidder will get our borrowing note, and we'll bring it back to you for signing. So.
The 2.7, was that from last year,
Yeah,
Chris, or is that 2.7
2.7
anticipated for this year?
In 17-18 we borrowed 2.7. Again in 18-19 we have it $2.7 million.
Right. I just want to make sure it's clarified so everybody understands it.
And so that will come due on November 20th. So we'll have to repay that loan.
Right.
And then we're looking at getting the funds around in December, and we'll be okay. We did the analysis and we should be fine.
Explanation of why only 1.5 this year is?
Well, last year I wanted to continue on the same amount, having only been here 30 days prior. I was really unsure of the unpredictability of what was going on. So we could have probably borrowed a bit less last year, but now that we have a little higher fund equity, a little bit more cash reserves, we have a little bit more of a buffer. And, you know, just having been in the district a little longer, I feel like, you know, that we can have lower interest expense. Interest rates, last year we saw a huge increase in interest rates, hopefully it kinda stays steady, but we're borrowing less money, so hopefully a lower interest expense.
And for me and the rest of the board and the public, what's the interest rates normally?
Well, right now, our current loan
It's
is at
gonna come back.
2.6.
Yeah.
Is what?
2.6%. The prior year though, we were in the ones, so that was kind of a shock. And we have to accept the lowest bid, so that's what we did.
And theoretically, Chris, if we were to continue to move forward and added to our fund equity, we would get to a point where we could avoid borrowing altogether, correct?
Yes, we would need to be at least at 10% would be my projection.
And was
we're
it
at
about?
8%.
Yeah.
And Alicia said though, like we said, if we run into a snafu, like on the food services,
Yes.
then maybe we don't wanna go
Right.
as low as we can, we wanna stay with,
Right.
we don't need to go the max, but we don't wanna go the low,
Exactly.
so if we have a snafu, we need a couple months operating.
That's exactly the theory that
Okay.
we're going on, because we don't wanna be caught without, I mean, it's really difficult for a school district to just go and get a loan. I mean,
Right.
it's a process, you know, we have to get approval from the board and, you know, get competitive bids, so we don't wanna be caught without being able to make payroll.
And they'll all come in by the 20th instead of November.
Our current loan is due on the 20th, and then we'll get the funds in December for the new loan, so,
And we've been doing this for about how many years?
for probably forever.
Yeah, they do it every year,
Yeah,
unless you have a huge fund balance.
and I don't think that
Just
that's
so
ever been
people
the
think it's
case,
unusual.
Right.
so,
Any questions?
Thank you.
More
Thanks.
kudos, I mean.
Thank you so much.
Thank
You
you,
just
Chris.
saved us a ton.
Well, theoretically, we're $1.2 million that we don't have to pay in interest.
exactly.
Okay, good, thank you.
All right, with that, I would entertain a motion on the annual state aid borrowing resolution.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, so I'm gonna take Alicia and then Jessica. Any comments or questions? Okay, so seeing that this has financial implications,
Oh,
I am going to, I'll read the resolution, then I'm gonna ask Joanna Schill to go roll call vote. Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approve the annual state aid borrowing resolution as presented, and you have all of the details in your packet. Joanne, would you do the roll call, please?
Mike?
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Alicia,
Yes.
and Jessica.
Yes.
Thank you so much. All right, next we have the MHSAA Hockey Cooperative Agreement Resolution. Did you wanna talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, it actually, we are blessed to have our athletic director, so I'll have Mr. Tony Suhanik come on up. And Tony is our athletic director here in the district, and so I guess the first thing is we can introduce him. So welcome, coming to the board for the first time
Thank you.
in your new role.
Sorry to make
Tony's-
you wait so long, Tony.
Oh, it's okay.
Tony's been in the district for a while.
Football games go later than this.
That's right. Tony's been a teacher, he's been a coach, he's been an administrator in the district and an assistant principal, and now he is our athletic director. So there is an action that requires board approval. There have been some conversations with about our hockey program, and so Tony, I'll let you introduce yourself and take it away.
Yeah, well, I think you said it best. This is my 15th year, and I've, had a little bit, started at the middle school and worked my way up, and now I find myself in the world of sports. With what's going on here is for the last several years, we have had a cooperative with Flushing. Now this year with Goodrich joining the Metro, they would like to join into our cooperative. And when we actually look at our team from last year, we had 16 players. 8 of them were Flushing, 8 of them were Swartz Creek. 6 of ours were seniors who are now gone. 4 of Flushing's were seniors. So 10 of our 18 players are now gone. So actually bringing in another team is going to be advantageous to us because it's going to help us provide access to the sport because we're going to have enough to fill a team. It's probably going to make us more competitive.
and it's gonna save us money for the athletic department when we have to factor in rink time and all of that. So I just propose to you that you would give the blessing that we go ahead with this, and hopefully we'll provide you a winning hockey team.
Any questions for Tony?
I'm sorry, can I
Go
ask
ahead.
a quick question?
Absolutely.
Cause I don't know enough. I know we've added teams into the Metro,
Yep.
but is the Metro now divided into,
In certain sports,
okay,
in certain sports.
so this
there-
has no impact because we've got a Class B team and a Class A.
Correct, it's one league.
But it's not, looking at the notes though, it's not, because there aren't enough teams, is it not a league sport?
No, it's a league sport, but we have not, it hasn't been competitive enough to have to separate it into two divisions. Only a few of our Metro League sports are actually separated, not all of them.
I'm reading the Flint Metro League thing, it says that hockey is not a league sport.
Yeah, that's what I read.
And I'm assuming because there's cooperative, it's because there's not enough teams.
You would be correct.
How many teams do you know, how many teams in the Flint Metro League have a hockey team? I mean, I'm assuming Grand Blanc has one.
Yeah, how many schools is what,
Right.
that's what she's asking, I think,
Yeah.
is how many
Oh,
schools are
Grand Blanc's
doing
not
it.
in
Grand
the
Blanc's not in the Metro, but,
No.
you know, does Kersley have one, or?
I believe so. I believe Lake Fenton has one. I know not all of them have one, that's why we're running about this.
Okay.
I don't think there's any Metro League that has their own team.
Yeah,
It's Kersley, Brandon, it's KB, Kersley, Brandon, I think Goodrich was with them last year. I don't think
See,
there's
I
one
thought
Metro League
Clio was
school.
with us last year.
They used, I don't think there's
Clio used to be
one,
with us.
yeah, it used to be Clio Flushing Creek.
Right.
Okay.
Well, give me an example, of some of the other cooperative that are, so if we're with Goodrich and Flushing and us, give me an example of two others or three others, does that make sense? I think that's what we're,
I think it was Lyndon Fenton.
yeah, I kinda wanna know, yeah.
No, I just wanted.
Yeah.
I think
I
it's
kinda
one-
wanna know, because yeah.
I apologize off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
no, okay.
I don't have that answer
All right.
for you.
For hockey, and in our own district, our swim team is a cooperative as well.
Right,
And that's across
in
the
the county,
district.
I understand that, so
Kersley,
Clio and
Brandon.
Kersley may be together, and
Yeah.
we're going in with Goodrich now and Flushing, and,
Linden and Fenton are together, I think,
Yeah.
for hockey,
Yeah,
so.
think
lacrosse is cooperative and many.
Is this more cost effective as well? It not only gains you players, but
Well, yeah,
it's
because
cost
of
effective.
rink time,
Yeah.
instead of splitting it,
Yeah.
now we're dividing it three ways.
so 3 ways, but we're still keeping the same amount of players, we just had to bring in another district because we ran out of players, right?
That's what we haven't had tryouts yet, so I don't know how many,
Okay.
but we're not anticipating a huge influx of freshmen coming in.
Yeah.
And the AD at the other schools felt the same way, that they're not looking at a huge influx.
And regardless,
Yeah, no problem
I
with
mean,
that.
I would throw out there that there's really not as much that gets sticky when it comes to like, where's the home team, because everybody's gotta go to an ice rink, nobody has one on their campus, right?
Correct.
So,
Well, that's it,
All right.
I had kinda the same concern, it's good,
Thanks, Tony.
thank you.
All right, with
Thank you.
that, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Tony?
Support.
Chuck? Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approve the MHSAA Hockey Cooperative Agreement Resolution as presented. Any comments or questions?
Thanks for getting some other people in. Yeah, I mean, that they're willing to do it, everybody's cooperating.
Hearing no others, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Was there any financial implication, or was it just bringing the kids in?
Financial implication,
I
To-
mean, do we have to, more money or nothing, or just
Oh.
all gonna be divided between them, and it's really nothing to do with us?
right,
It's just the agreement, the actual
just,
formal agreement.
it's just the MHS wanting to say the board
Yeah.
approves
it's
it.
not changing the name at all to the
No.
team,
No.
correct? So they don't need new uniforms or anything like that? Okay.
No, good,
Okay, so that resolution passes.
and it allows the kids to play.
Yep.
So, yeah, great, thank you.
So now we have an opportunity for public comment, and I think we have one public person here. If you would like to address the
No, I
board,
don't.
please stand and state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, or you can talk about hockey. Is that it?
Oh, Kevin's back.
Oh, Kevin, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. I can't see you. All right.
He's hiding because he doesn't want to address the board.
Okay, I don't hear any public comments going once, twice, so, comments and questions from the board? Anyone?
I want to congratulate the soccer team, boys soccer team, the Dragon Marching Band, and the students for the academic excellence, Caleb and Jacob.
Thank you.
I would add, I don't have the number off the top of my head, I could look it up on my phone, but, there was a large group of students that were inducted into the National Honor Society last evening as well. So we'll just recognize them also. Some of
How many
them.
were there? Does
That's
anybody
right.
know?
They're,
I could look.
roughly
You guys were
40.
there?
Yeah,
Mhm.
35 to 40, I have that sheet.
I'd have to count it, I got a picture of it.
Two kids a year, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
yes,
Wonderful.
yes. I would like to, say congratulations as well to, I did see the marching band, and I swear I'm not being biased when I say they were the best sounding and looking band out in Country Ridge.
Awesome.
They were fantastic, and at the last football game, you could really tell as well. You know, they've been doing great all year long, but I was talking to Jacob Winter last night, he was at NHS, and I just congratulated him, and he said, yeah, everything just kind of fell into place and really clicked, and you can
Good.
really tell with the marching band this year.
That's
So.
awesome.
How many other bands were in the competition at Goodrich?
Well, in our division for the size of the school, 3, and then we got their Powers was just finishing up, so we were able to see 5 full marching bands compete, and you know, they weren't competing against each other, just look at how they rock. Fantastic. So, and I'd also like to say, if I can, so on the way to the football game the other day, my daughter said, "Oh, go back, that's my jam." So she said, "I sing that when I'm walking between classes at the middle school." And she said they're doing something new this year. So publicly I want to say, she said, it's really nice. They play a variety of music and they cut it off 1 minute before the bell's gonna ring. And I didn't know they were doing that this year, and I happened to see Mrs. Corbett, and I congratulated her, and Mr. Nolan happened to be standing right there, and she said it was actually Mr. Nolan's idea. And my daughter, as a parent, I'm gonna say this, but, is that she said it was uplifting. She's really enjoying it, and it's a nice way. I think we were talking about academic achievement the other day. It's a good way as well for the kids to be able to communicate and allow them that choice and know the responsibility of, now this is ended, I have a minute to get to class. So anyway, it was just cool to hear about that and know the impact. I'm just trying to share that it's, at least it has a positive impact for at least one kid, I suppose. So anyway, and I just wanted to acknowledge Rod on his presentation to the GISD and all the work that we're doing with MTSS, and Chris, she's doing just amazing work, so.
Thank you.
And back to the band, I'd like to congratulate them for being the chosen band for the Eastern Michigan game. You never know when one of those kids is gonna go be in a university band because they did that, right?
Not that university.
Right, right. You just never know, so that's amazing. Anyone else?
I forgot one. Carrie, congratulations.
Oh, thank
And
you.
you were in the
Yes.
paper also, on
Was
that
it?
Alpha Award, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
It was very nice. It was a very nice event, and Rod was there, Jim came. It was nice. I had friends there that have supported me professionally over my years, and it was nice to have them there. So I could thank them, and it was nice. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Anybody else?
Food for the suspended kids, did you find out about that?
Yeah, I mean, I have information if you want to talk through that.
Yeah.
It's just logistically, what do we want to commit to?
I don't know, we're all here, what do we wanna commit to suspended kids?
I
We
mean-
said we have a lot of extra money in the food.
Yeah, it's just a legit, it would be something that, I did the research, talked with Michael, we addressed that. It would basically be, we would try and free up one of our vans and we would deliver sack lunches to people. I mean, it would be like a delivery type service.
It would be on
So-
a daily basis though.
Yeah.
That'd probably be a lot of logistics.
Yeah, so I mean, we could create it so they could come pick it up, but, you know, we could offer that opportunity, and Michael said we can do it, I mean, you know, he's pretty solid on that, so.
I mean, we got three, there was three, right?
On a given day, we probably have 20 students, you know.
Yeah, but three we got permanent, and then the ones that we have at a week or 2 weeks at a time, or whatever the principals dish
Yeah.
out, or you.
They would be notified that that's available?
They
Then
could be,
they would
yeah.
request it?
Yeah, we've never done that, but
I
it's
wanna
not,
do it.
yeah, it's not anything that we couldn't do. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where we'd literally would have to have a driver take a van out to.
Is it worth, I guess I wanna throw out there, so like Mike's saying, we would need to notify them that it's available. Do we have the opportunity now, since we don't have a program, is this a time to survey those that we have and ask if that would be something that they would be interested in? Because if we don't get any response, I mean, my thought is, don't spend a whole lot of time and effort putting together a program or a policy or a process if it's never gonna get utilized.
Well, I think we need a policy on it, and I don't think it's a big policy. We have a policy committee every month, why can't the three people come up with a
Well,
draft plan policy, and we approve it here? And then.
But it's beyond the policy, I get to it's the process, I mean, that's going to impact.
Well, we gotta have a
this-
policy first to have the process, that's what I'm trying to get at, we're not,
I
I
disagree.
talked about it
I
for
think
3
you need a
months.
process, you have to understand the process first to be able to even have the policy in place to support it.
Well, I would
That's
say
part
we
of
can,
it.
I would say if what you're looking for is just to get the kids fed, we can do it. It's just a matter
I'll
of,
make a motion that we make a policy to have a process to feed the suspended children. It's that simple, it's a 2-page document to have it.
Do we have a policy for the food truck?
no,
No.
there,
We
but I
should
mean,
have one for that too.
you know,
Sorry.
Well, we should, I mean, it's Swartz Creek property, it's our employees, why don't we have policies for things like this? We have policies, and every other municipality has it when they operate something. I'm trying to get food for the kids that are suspended. And to have that, you have to have, there's a process, but who's gonna make up the process? The policy committee should make it up.
I would suggest, do these kids want to be fed, or do they have food at home already and have a need?
I don't know, but
Or
I know I've done the legwork, you know, when you asked, and I know that we can do it. But when I say we can do it, what that entails is that it entails a driver to take a sack lunch and a van out to wherever that student is. We can do that. The question really isn't, it doesn't necessarily require as much of a policy as it is, we'd just like you guys to do this. And so if that's what you want me to do, we can do it. There probably will be a cost associated with, there will be a cost associated with it. You know, it would fall under our food service, you know, program, but the logistics of it are more the conversation that I guess what I'm saying is I'm neutral on this. I see there's benefits in doing it. I see there, you know, it's a good humanitarian thing to do. The other side of the coin, and what some people would say is, you know, they would say, hey, you know, if you're in that situation, we want to try and help you no matter what, but that's out of the realm of what any normal school district would do. I tend to fall in the middle because we're not normal on a lot of things. We do a lot of different things. So if you want us to do that, we'll just do it. It's just gonna be a different.
I'd like to see it done.
If we have an impoverished kid that's suspended for 5 days,
Or 2
and,
months.
or a month, and he has a head count, and we're getting money for that food, why would we not offer him that food and send him 2 sack lunches?
The only reason I can think,
Yeah.
and I'm not against it, if them kids need food, yeah, I agree with you, Chuck. But there's gonna be some parents and some kids that don't want you to bring that to their house. I guarantee you. My wife's grandparents, who were in this district, raised 14 kids. People tried to bring them food, Grandpa would go crazy. And I'm just, you know, all I ask is, you know, are you gonna tell them that it's available and they can ask for
Yeah.
it?
Well,
Yeah.
So
And
they
let
can
us
opt-
know
they can
if you
opt-
even
they
want
can opt
it.
into
Right.
a
program.
And if they are suspended, can they come on school property?
I don't think they can come on school property.
So,
The student cannot.
The parent
Parents
could pick
can.
it up.
And some people are proud, like Mike said, I understand that, but there's some people that I think need it. And if we have 20 or 30 kids suspended, if 15 are gonna take advantage of it, they don't even know about it, and we need to make this available.
So
Everybody's
they-
talking about, we've
does
got,
that mean would we use existing staff? Would we have to hire somebody to basically?
We've got
be
the
a
money in the
delivery
food
driver?
services.
I know, I'm not opposed to that. I'm just want the whole picture of, do we truly have an idea of what it costs to do that for 5 days a week? And are we talking about just lunch?
We don't have, I mean, yes, we have an idea, you know, the lunch cost is minimal, right? It's the fuel and time for the employee to drive it out there, basically what it is. So why don't I, reach out to the three, we'll start with those three, those were the three you were first inquiring about, right?
that, and I know we have some kids, I don't know about the 5-day things, I think it should be to all of them, but definitely
The long-term ones.
everyone.
So I'll reach out to them, let them know that that's available, or I'll ask Michael to reach out. And then we'll get, some feedback, and then I can, before our next board meeting, I will have something for you, so so we know where people stand on it.
It can be
Do
an
they have
internal
to be-
policy, whatever you want,
Yeah.
Ben,
Do
I
they
mean,
need
you're
to
in
be on
charge.
for 300
Yeah, we
lunch
can,
already?
but I mean, I'm just saying, we can
Or
get
we
it
have
done,
to-
and then I'll let you know what the
And like Mike
response
says,
is.
it's not even offered right now, and that should be offered to all the kids that are suspended.
Alicia, well, my question is, but then do we have to qualify that they already received free or reduced lunch? Or are we giving free?
See, all these questions, I think, goes back to what Chuck said initially about setting a small policy.
Doesn't have to be
These are all
lengthy.
questions that would be answered in a policy, right?
In a policy committee, if somebody wrote a 2-page document saying that we offer it to them, and it's based on A, B, C, D, and E, that way we don't have this discussion anymore, and it's done. And we say, refer back to the policy, listen, we're gonna have suspended kids to the school stands.
Right.
So let's just get it out of the way and make a policy on it. Doesn't have to be an extensive policy, just like I asked about the vehicle last month.
Mhm.
Having employees drive vehicles home, and just have a policy on it, so we can, I'd like to put it to rest, because I don't have to think about if a kid got suspended for 2 months, and he isn't proud, sure he's not. Is he eating or isn't he eating?
Good.
And everybody's like, well, the kid suspended himself, he's the one who got in trouble. That's fine, but he should still be able to eat, 'cause if he came to school, he'd be able to eat. And we give him 2 or 3 sack lunches. And that's all they have to eat. We've all discussed that before.
Mhm.
So Ben, can you gather the information and then we can talk about it at the policy meeting
Yeah.
next month?
Yep.
We have $400,000, we can pay the overtime if somebody has to drive it out of that fund.
Yep.
That's why I got to that fund, what are we gonna do with that money?
Yep.
Okay.
I had one more thing to bring up. I know I keep rambling, but did anybody see the video the latest video that was put out about the cancer research in Aaliyah? Did anybody see that? In our
I did.
How's she
artist,
Thank you.
Ben and Jim
She's,
Kitchen.
she's in good spirits. Mr. Kitchen met with her, yesterday, and, we showed her the video for the first time. If you haven't seen it, we did a fun, we partnered with the American Cancer Society. You are on the video, all of you, for being there. We did we did a song, and then we also, videoed the presentation of her diploma. And, she got to see it for the first time. So the American Cancer Society is running a national Aaliyah's Fight for Kids campaign.
Beautiful.
And raising as much money as they can for childhood cancer research. So she got to see it for the first time yesterday. So
They didn't catch this side of the table crying, did they?
they,
The 4 guys?
There were some misty eyes in there for sure. But it's if you get a chance to see it, I think you'll enjoy it. It's pretty powerful.
The whole
It
purpose
is.
was excellent.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
I was getting my hair done today
Thanks for
and
bringing it up,
I was
Jen.
blubbering and my stylist said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I'm just have to watch this." It was just amazing. So
Is
thank
she,
you.
is she
It was-
making
it
any
was
better
wonderful.
progress, or just good
No, they
spirits?
stopped chemo last week. They estimate about a month. So, yeah. But her spirits are high considering all. So,
Is there anything else we can do as a board for her at this point? Any suggestions?
thoughts and prayers. Jessica has reached out with an idea of maybe contacting Sharps to see if there's anything they could do, and she has a connection there. So we're going to kind of work that angle a little bit. But
Is there a fundraiser already been set up or a go-to fund?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And the district has been very generous. I mean, not our district funds, but the people in our school community have been, and just continue to support the family. And you know, it's a difficult time for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, anything else? Do a motion to adjourn?
No, we're going to
Go into
closed
closed
session.
Oh, that's right, we're going to closed session, thank you.
Yeah.
I am excited
You asked
about
for
it.
one.
But you're going to
Yeah,
closed
so we
session.
do have the need to go into closed session for the purpose of strategy related to negotiations, OMA 15.268, Section 8C, and to consider security planning to address existing threats or prevent potential threats to the safety of the students and staff, OMA 15.268, Section 8K. I need a motion.
Moved after an approval for a 2-minute potty break.
Okay, so we have Alicia. Do I have a second?
4 seconds. Need a roll call.
Brian, any comments or questions? Joanne, roll call please. Okay.
To have a little bit of a session in December, depending on how those bids go out.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
I think I'm gonna go home and research that new law. I don't care, I mean, I'm gonna have to now because I'm kind of,
It's crazy.
yeah,
Huh?
November.
November 13th.
never affected.
November 13th.
Oh, see what I, hey Brian, see what I saved? I forgot, I took part of my hamburger bun because the dogs like the greasy hamburger buns, so I give them each a third.
Now, what kind of dogs do you have, Chuck?
Oh, you don't wanna know. Pit bulls from the Humane Society, we have Dobermans, so,
Oh, really?
yeah, we've had